Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, and with me is a man who just suffered his first loss as a co-host. But he always learns from his mistakes. Hunter Homistek. Hunter, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. Having a beautiful day despite the Steelers' loss. Not ideal. Feels pretty crappy to lose. I got to say, winning is a lot cooler than losing. Who knew? But it's time to bounce back. I don't lose two straight.
Don't lose two straight. And that was, Steelers ended up making it into the playoffs by not having to win a game. Getting out to that 11-game lead early in the season helped. I think it was it the Colts loss? Who lost that got us in? Or Miami?
The Dolphins lost,
Miami
I believe.
Kansas City. That's right. So that put us into the playoffs, and now with Cleveland dropping a game there to the Ravens, Steelers only have to win one of their next three games to finalize this division chokehold, and I'm hoping it's this week.
It should happen. I mean, I still have extremely high hopes and expectations that they're going to win the division and be fine come playoff time, but there's no doubt that things are rocky right now. Like, if you're one of those Steelers fans that feels like the sky is falling and everything's on fire, I kind of get that. I kind of get where you're coming from, but I would say probably hold off on that. They're still 11-2. Now, the scary thing is that it's becoming a trend of poor performances, even the couple that they won before that. So I understand that, but they'll be okay. You know, this is a veteran team that has shown it can bounce back and handle adversity. So I think they're figuring some things out right now, and we'll be fine.
And let's take a look over here at our sponsor, Total Sports Enterprises. Today, Steeler Nation, they are giving away a signed Jack Ham jersey, Color Rush jersey. So, and this is just for their dailies. Like, they're giving away something different each day. Go over to @TotalSportsENT. All you have to do is retweet it. Like them and retweet it. Easy. You're entered to win a Jack Ham jersey. And there's a two for today. The second jersey that you can win today is the one specifically for this game. Hines Ward Gotham jersey.
No way.
The one where he returned a kick for a touchdown, and then they blew up the stadium. Damn you, Bane. But you can get yourself a signed Hines Ward Gotham jersey right here. Total Sports Enterprises will be giving that one out tomorrow. So you got two ways to win today. Good luck, Steeler Nation. Get some good gifts for either yourself or for some friends and family, all thanks to Total Sports Enterprises.
Dude, we've had some good jerseys and some good giveaways from them this year, but those are by far the two best. That's insane. Happy holidays, everybody. Jack, let me throw one at you spontaneously here, Stryker.
Sure.
Jack Ham is the best outside linebacker in Steelers history. Agree or disagree?
Was he playing outside? I thought he played inside.
No, he's an outside backer for sure.
Outside backer.
Great coverage though, because they played the 4-3 back then, and Jack held down the middle.
Yes. Yeah.
Jack Lambert. I guess
Jack Lambert. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Jack Lambert held down the middle. Yes. Thank you for correcting my mind there for a second as I spaz. So, best outside linebacker in Steeler history. Let me think. The other ones that I'd put up there would be Lloyd, Kevin Green, who didn't play his whole career with us. Obviously, had 3 good years with Blitzburg. Porter had some great years. He's Hall of Fame capable. And now we got Watt. So right now, I'd have to say yes. Longevity with the Steelers, being a Hall of Famer, I'd say that's a good argument. That's a good argument. It's one at least that I can't poke holes into.
For sure. And forgot James Harrison in your rundown of
all people. Thank you very much.
Still.
Hall of Fame caliber, because he's one of my all-time favorites as well, as he's done that Greg Lloyd mold. But and
Jack, and I love Jack Ham. Like anybody listening, I would urge you, if you're not super familiar with his body of work, like go back and watch some old tape. He's a player that I genuinely think would be even better in today's NFL. He was so far ahead of his time. He was an amazing coverage linebacker, which we see more and more of. But he was honestly a little ahead of his time. So it's really cool to watch.
Yeah. And so moving on, at least like these past games, and we're starting to talk about the offensive woes a little bit. I mean, they're starting to look a little bit like last year's offense in December, as opposed to the Ben Roethlisberger-led offense in December. He had a down game. Obviously, only 3 drops, which is good for us. 3 or 4, I think, total in the game. But the first 3 were early. I mean, you're talking about first drives. So they're kind of drive killers, and they kind of took the Steelers a little bit of time to get going, and Ben ended up having 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions to go with it. And of course, losing that sack streak at 6 games, which ended up being the second longest streak of most attempts between sacks.
Mm-hmm.
So the only person that's better is the Dan Marino offenses in the early 90s. And we didn't even make it halfway. He's in the 700s between snaps, and Steelers are around like 270 something. It's like not even halfway to number 1. That's how good the pass blocking was for Miami Dolphins, and also how good that Dan Marino was at getting the ball out quickly, which really was set that stage for being that quarterback that could get the ball out as quickly as possible and accurately to his receivers.
That's one of those stats that sounds fake. You know, that doesn't even make sense to go that long without getting sacked. But yeah, unfortunate to see the Steelers cough that up. But overall, you got to be happy with the pass protection. But as you definitely alluded to and said, it's also a product of Ben simply getting the ball out of his hands so fast. And I forget which defender it was. It was somebody on the Washington football team, I think, that said they could have a free rush with no offensive line blocking them, and they still wouldn't get to him just based on how fast he's getting rid of the ball. Like,
wow.
So it's half blocking and half the product of simply how fast he's getting the ball out of his hands. So there's that. The offensive line for run blocking, however.
Yes. Well,
we got nothing good to say about that, ladies and gentlemen, guaranteed.
Well, I thought in the first half, the Steelers actually did a decent job of moving the football in the running game. They were getting 3 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry. They had 1 rip ball for 9. They looked decent. I don't know if it was a product of Fichtner getting hurt and Dotson coming in early before he got hurt as well. But once we hit the second half, and this may be scheme over the line themselves, but when we got down, we had to pass to get back into the game. And it's not like we're going to be running the football, effectively. And they know that we're going to pass. So they're rushing hard, and they've got everybody near the line of scrimmage. So that became kind of like a give and a take. But the thing that I've found that's really starting to screw with the Steelers is their hurry up offense. Yeah. Everybody was saying, Filer's well. Everybody was saying that, Steelers hurry up offense, Ben's got to call all the plays. Randy Fichtner sucks. Like, let Ben do the hurry up offense. And these last 2 games, we're talking about turnover. Here, what are we at here? I actually wrote it down here just so I could talk to us about it. Goodness, I probably put it down here in the question area. Yeah. So interception, pick 6, interception, turnover on downs. That's the last Beautiful. 2 games. Hurry up, 2-minute, trying to push the ball down the field quickly. We're not getting it done. So the part that was the strength, the part that we were able to rely on when Randy Fichtner's play calling wasn't working, and it's time for Ben to make plays to kind of switch it up, that isn't even helping us out moving the football anymore. And it closed out both of those games, unfortunately, with interceptions.
And this kind of to echo back to what I said when we started about people being extremely concerned right now. Like, everything you just said is why, because there were these things that we felt all along. Well, if they just do this, if they just do no huddle, if they just hurry up, if they just let Ben call the plays, it'll solve itself. And now that's not working anymore either. Ben's starting to get hit a little more. His arm is noticeably not as strong on deep passes and not even attempting deep passes anymore. The pass to James Washington, the touchdown to James Washington, was a beautiful throw. That's what makes the whole conversation so difficult to me, because I would almost prefer knowing, like, oh man, like Ben's arm is shot. Like, his arm, like, you guys all remember Peyton Manning in his final year, how bad he was. And it was just obvious, like, dude, your arm's gone. Yeah. Like, that could be the case for Ben, but then that pass to Washington, that's not somebody whose arm is gone. Like, it's something else. His arm's still there. He didn't step into the interception going to James at all. So I understand, like, that one made more sense. It's just, and that's really the problem of it, is that it's just confusing right now. Like, there's no obvious answer like you would want to see. There's no obvious solution like you would want to see. They just got to figure it out, man. They got to get their crap together.
And for me, Hunter, I'm with you. It's not the arm at all. His arm's surgically repaired. It's looking great. He's got the zing. To me, though, it looks like it's starting to be his legs are starting to fail him. I think that game against the Cowboys, when he hurt both of his knees, he's not going to be 100% because of it. A lot of the time he's throwing the ball just with his upper body, not stepping into throws. Obviously, on the interception that he threw, that was the pick six. And that Cowboys game, he was the one that dove and Superman at the sideline and made that tackle because he wasn't hurt. Like in this game, though, you know, he didn't. He knew he threw the interception. He didn't even make it past the hash. Like I could see him like lumbering toward that side on a pursuit angle, but you know, he had the angle. He knew it was intercepted immediately, and he didn't. He could have. If a healthy Ben would have gotten there. Healthy Ben would at least slowed up the interception there a little bit because still had some time, still had some bangage. It's still a little bit downfield, and there's enough time for him to recover a little bit to at least get in the way.
Yeah, and what's alarming about that, I think, and you touched on it a little bit there, was that the physical ailment, which we're saying, you know, maybe his knees, maybe there's nothing official just to put that out there. As far as the Steelers
other
are
than
concerned,
the
he's
injury
fine.
report is listing him as a not injury related / knee injury. Which
that's
been the last.
I don't know what that means, but
yeah,
it doesn't seem to be anything super serious. But what's alarming about it to me is that it is affecting his mechanics in that way. Like you just said, he wasn't stepping into passes. You could tell he was hesitant to put a lot of weight on that front foot when he was making passes. So I don't know if it's in his head to where, hey, my knee hurts, and I'm going to try to just muscle these with all arm, but it's clearly not working. I mean, I don't know, man. It's a shame to watch the downfall, so to speak, but it's also important to recognize that it's just 2 losses in a row and there's plenty of time left. Yeah.
Rushing game, though, 47 yards rushing. This is the 5th time this season they've been under 50 yards, and that's a record for this team as well.
Hey, setting records all over the place with this team.
Good and bad, it seems. But let's talk about the receivers because at least, there's some interesting aspects that happen. I mean, obviously, nobody put up great numbers. Juju led this week with 6 catches for 55 yards and the big touchdown on 7 targets. And he had, though, his 7th touchdown, and that ties a career high for a season for Juju. So a little bit of kudos there to Juju for his season high of 7 touchdowns, and with still, 3 games left to play, right? 3 or 4? We had 3.
Yeah, 3.
And Deontay Johnson, I was surprised that and the announcers said he might have a case of the yips there, and I immediately thought of you, Hunter.
Yeah,
we were talking about that too. I think Collinsworth touched base on that with his 2 drops.
It's crazy.
So on 7 targets. So how did that feel, at least in that moment when you were watching the game?
Oh man, it was crazy. And the reason, like, I love to golf. I'm a golfer. So the yips are very well known to me. Like, I understand the way something can get in your head, and it's a shot that you've done a million times in your life. It mostly refer to it to putting, but it can happen on any shot. We've seen, if you guys follow golf and have seen Charles Barkley's swing, it just became like, that is the ultimate yip right there. Like he used to be a great golfer, and then it just turned into that. Sports can be so mental, and with something like catching a football, and in Deontay's case, I think it was pretty obvious. Like, he's in his head. He has the talent for sure to catch footballs. Everybody knows that. His drops have never been this much of a concern. But as soon as he dropped that first one, the quick little screen, and it was just like
it could have been a quick hitter for a good game.
Oh my goodness. And it was so clear that the team was like, okay, let's get this out of his head, hit him with a quick screen, get one going, and we're good. As soon as he dropped that, I was like, oh, it's going to be a long day, because now that's in his head. Now the pressure's double. And dude, I was legitimately concerned when they benched him too, because I know, like, I even tweeted, like, you got to bench him after that second drop. I tweeted that, but then, like, I kind of took it back, because these guys, you got to think about the psychology behind this. If it is mental and you bench them, when they go back in the game, there's now that much added pressure on top of it. So they know, like, this is my last chance, however you want to look at it. So it could have made the issue worse. So I think what was super, super good to see was in the second half when he did get back in, made a couple catches, nothing huge, but nice, clean catches, and just kind of got back on track. So I have hopes that he's getting back on track. But I mean, dude, it wasn't just him. Like, Ebron dropped another 3rd down, and it's just, I don't know. I don't have an answer for the drops, man. It's crazy.
Well, the only person that's not really dropping the ball right now is James Washington. I mean, he's had a good game again, too. 5th touchdown of the year, and he's had 4 touchdowns for his previous 2 seasons. So, I mean, he's having a career season as far as touchdowns go. I know he had better yardage last year, but it looks like the Steelers were working him in more. It looked like Chase Claypool started losing some snaps, too, because of it.
Yeah, that was interesting to see, and I think Tomlin just talked about that today. He said Chase Claypool hasn't hit the rookie wall, but
Yeah.
they're trying to prevent him from doing so, and that's why kind of they're limiting his snaps. So that makes sense. It's crazy, man. And we talked about it, before. I feel like as Chase was heating up for sure very early in the season, the potential of a rookie wall, that's a very real thing. It's very rare that a rookie will just sustain high production throughout an entire season, and especially with an abbreviated training camp like this year, like they had. So it's nice to know that there is a reason why Chase's snaps are getting limited. He's not hurt. There's nothing wrong. It's more of a preventative measure from the Steelers, from what it sounds like, at least from what they're telling us. So that's good to know. I think Chase will be fine. Chase will always be that home run hitter for them right now, with upside to do a whole lot more. So that's a good place to be.
So at least situationally in the game, they did a little bit better. Red zone, they were at least 2 for 2, but unfortunately they only got to the red zone twice. Held Buffalo at 2 for 5. Penalties were low again this week. 3 penalties, 55 yards, 7 for 48 for the Bills. Turnovers, of course, were a big equalizer, 2-2 there. But third down efficiency to me, is where they lost the game. Steelers were 1 for 10 on third down. Bills were 50% at 7 for 14, whereas like Steelers killed the Bills in the first half on third down. Second half, it seemed like they made all of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a totally different game after the half. The pick six was such a noticeable momentum shift for everything, and it baffles me to this day, as much as I've watched sports and watched football, how something like that can change the tone of a game. Like, it's a very interesting dynamic to me when something like that happens, but it was so noticeable and obvious. It was just like, man, it was unfortunate. Totally different game. Once Josh Allen to Diggs connection started going, man, Diggs is, and we talked about this in the pregame, I just, piled praise upon Stephon Diggs, one of my absolute favorite receivers in the game.
Fantastic.
He's such a problem, man. The way he runs routes. And I know, like, people want to look at Cam Sutton slipping and Steven Nelson slipping, but if you really watch those routes, the reason they're slipping is because he is impossible to keep up with when he's running route. Like, he twisted them up. He twisted them up. It was essentially like crossing somebody over, in basketball. That's what he does. So, and there's no defense, really. Like, nobody has stopped him all year. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL, having a career year. He's on pace to break every Bills receiver record out there. So
wow. And you've got some excellent Bills receivers.
Yeah, you've got some Hall of Famers. Yeah.
Andre Reed.
Exactly.
John Beebe back then on the big K-gun teams. I mean, geez,
exactly.
That is something else.
Yeah, man. So Diggs is just a problem. Getting beat by him is not a huge deal to me, because that's just what kind of player he is. You got to be completely firing on all cylinders to stop that Bills offense, which we said. And hey, they scored 26 points, and 7 of them were the pick six. So all in all, the Steelers defense did a great job, in my opinion.
Yeah. It was it would have been a 15-19 game there on that last drive for the Steelers to try to take the lead. But at least, I wouldn't even say at least, they had one more good thing happen from that game. They were able to set the record for sacks now in 70 straight games, and that was with the Tyson Alualu sack fumble that he forced on Johnson. Should have been 2. I'll show you one here quick, but interesting aspects. So this now spans since week 9 versus Baltimore. In 2016 was when the sack streak started.
That's really
crazy.
First
person led it with 2 sacks was the guy that I forgot earlier, and you reminded me, James Harrison.
Wow.
James Harrison started this streak with the first 2 sacks in that game, and then Shazier and Chiquillo combined on a half sack for the final sack late in that game to start this whole streak to where we're at now with Tyson Alualu giving us the record here last week. But I want you to go to the film here and show you guys here currently on Facebook, Twitter. When you rewatch it, you can see it here on YouTube. But there's a specific play where the Steelers actually should have gotten a second sack.
Nice. And hey, man, just a quick shout out, because I see a lot of new faces in the comments. So we appreciate all you guys tuning in. And if you ask a question, we will get to it. Like, we're absolutely not ignoring you. We got a little question and answer at the end, so we'll throw them in there. We appreciate any and all questions and look forward to getting to them.
Yeah, and just be patient, because sometimes we get to the questions as we're talking anyway, which is why we save them for the end. So
yeah, you never know. Could just throw them in.
You got any questions, throw them up. We'll be talking about them here when we get to the Q&A section for questions from Steeler Nation. So,
all right.
So here we are at the screen that I wanted to show this to you. This was on first play of the second quarter. And this is a play where they're bringing Sutton in here off of the edge. So let me slide this over here a hair so I can get this thing to start. There we go. I'll shrink this down a bit so I can see it. So you got Sutton coming in off the edge. And you guys remember, it's the play that looks like, he got hit in the ball, hits the ground. It must be incomplete. No, it actually wasn't. We're going to see the replay coming up here. First replay, though, is going to be from pretty much the same angle, so it's really tough to see. But they highlight Sutton nicely here, showing him on it, how he's going to come in here off the edge. And the tight end did a good job of at least pushing him a little wider. So, I mean, because he would have hit him blind and probably knocked that ball to the ground. But right here, that's it. That is the spot where he hits the ball and knocks it loose. And I'm going to bring it back to there, too, because they do that a little too quickly. Come on. And, of course, I go too far. So, but initially, I'm going to slow it down once we get here to this replay as well. So I'm going to super slow-mo. There's super slow-mo. You're going to see his arm is moving backwards when he hits the ball immediately comes out of the grasp of his hands, and Josh Allen throws a live fumble. So that is as throwing a fumble. If you would have reviewed that play, I don't know who we have in the booth. Second week in a row that I yelled.
Yep.
Who is reviewing that play? The week before we talked about the lateral, which they screwed up. Same kind of play. Steelers need somebody in the booth to make sure that they're getting these plays right, because extra possessions are how you win football games in the NFL. And that is the second week. And this one's even more so. Like, this one is a cut and dry fumble. His hand moves backward. It hits a hand, and then which pushes it forward. The ball is already out when it hits that hand. So he throws a fumble. And Steelers land on it, too. It was Justin Lane clearly recovered it, too. So it would have been Steeler football if they reviewed it.
And I'm sure, like, a lot of you watching the game have the same experience as me when you're watching games, that you have your friends. For me, it's like my dad and some friends that I text nonstop during the game. My phone just blew up when that play happened. Like, that's a fumble. They need a challenge. Like, it was one of those ones that was so obvious that it surprised me for sure that they didn't challenge it. And I'm like, you, man, like, where's the guy in the booth? Because I remember when this was a conversation a couple years ago, when Tomlin kept losing challenges or missing opportunities, they were like, they need to appoint somebody to do that. And as far as I know, they did and have not fired that person or changed that. So I don't know what he's doing anymore. It was absolutely a fumble.
To have that corrected. You're right. We talked about that in the preseason this year.
Yeah.
They hired someone specifically to help them out with replays. And I don't know if this guy's blind or what, but he's no Ernie Adams, I'll tell you that.
And that's one worth just at least taking a chance on, man, because that's a game, a turnover like that with a clear recovery, that could change everything. We just talked about how a turnover could change the momentum of a game. Who knows? And Sutton was clearly fired up. But, even though he didn't get credited with it, man, shout out to Cam Sutton there. That was a hell of a play. And he and Hilton have both been just fantastic all season. They've got some decisions to make there in the future.
And even without that sack fumble, which he forced, I mean, Cam Sutton still had 3 passes defensed and a fumble recovery. So, I mean, he was all – and that both he and Hilton, I thought, was a monster in this game.
Again.
5 tackles. 1 was behind the line of scrimmage, 1 TFL, an interception, a pass defensed, and a forced fumble. I mean, the guy was disruptive as hell, and I thought he played well enough to get us in position to win this game.
Absolutely.
But still strong play. Avery Williamson coming in and Marcus Allen. Like, I was worried about the middle linebackers. I don't know, you guys, Steeler Nation. And but it's like I was looking at our middle linebackers. I'm like, well, I'm happy we have Avery Williamson because that's why he's a starter caliber. But he ended up with 11 tackles. Marcus Allen came in with 8 tackles and a TFL. So, we didn't get hurt in the middle of the field. We got hurt on the edges with Diggs, and we got hurt on the edges with Diggs. That was pretty much
it. Yeah. I'm very glad you brought that up, man, because I wanted to for sure shout out their performance and that next man up mentality that we talked about all season. Spillane had it, and then Spillane goes down, and we're like, oh, man, what now? But, like, Marcus Allen was phenomenal. And I know Avery Williamson was too, but Marcus Allen surprised me more. So, like, that's the guy who stood out more to me because I was worried when they transitioned him to inside linebacker this off season. I was like, okay, that seems like a safety valve. They just understand that maybe he can't play safety at the NFL level, but they like him enough and are just trying to keep him around. It seemed like a courtesy move almost, if you will, but then he gets in the game and gets a chance to play. And it's like, okay, like Marcus Allen can play inside linebacker in the NFL. Like,
that's crazy
in that game.
And that goes to show you too, because essentially by the Steelers saying, okay, we're going to change Marcus Allen into an inside linebacker, that's also stated because we knew he was a box safety and was a great box safety in Penn State. And he was making some good plays in preseason for us because we knew he had the ability. But Steelers like these rangy, athletic linebackers that can cover receivers, tight ends, running backs out of the backfield. what better position to switch to and to create one of those athletic linebackers than to convert one of your box safeties. Like even Brooks, he's got the potential to do that too. Who they just picked up this year from the University of Maryland. So, it's kudos to the Steelers for adding speed and trying to get a lot more coverage capable people that are either going to be box safeties or inside linebackers now with that transition with Allen. But it's showing that it can work in the NFL, and he did a good job.
Truly, man. I couldn't agree more. And same goes for Justin Lane for me. I've been impressed when Justin Lane has gotten the game. There is not a noticeable drop-off, which is saying a lot when you're coming in for either Joe Hayden or Steven Nelson. Those two guys are beasts. So I'm just super impressed with the defense in general, the next man up mentality that all year, like I said, they talked about this all year, but it has absolutely played out on the field. And as much as the defense was maybe not as dominant against the Bills as we're used to seeing this year, it was not, like I said earlier, it's not a bad defensive performance. Like the final score, you got to remember 6 of those points were a pick six. So that's not on the defense. I mean, ultimately, if you get out of there holding the Bills to 20 points, I would have been very happy. That would have been a big win to me.
And the last person I just wanted to mention, too, was Steven Nelson with 3 passes defensed. He did an excellent job being the go-to guy who was initially on Diggs for the first half. It looked like they moved Diggs over to the other side to be on the Sutton Lane side in the second half, and he was getting a little bit more open in these coverages. But, I mean, you have Hayden and Nelson in a game against the Buffalo Bills. I don't see Diggs. I see Diggs still doing well. I still see him getting some catches, but I don't see him being as disruptive if you have both Hayden and Nelson playing against Diggs for a future game.
Yeah, he's a guy that you're never going to completely shut down, Diggs. So you're okay with him getting, 6-7 catches and 80 yards, something like that. What you got to prevent is the complete explosion like he had. Like that's still unacceptable, but he's one of those guys that – Steelers fans will know from the AB days. Like AB would always get his. Like he had that ridiculous 5-catch, 50-yard streak that was an NFL record. Like you're not going to stop him completely, but you just got to contain him. And the Steelers didn't really do that.
And another big point that I want to make too about the middle linebackers doing their job is you take a look at their runners. And you got Zach Moss with 13 carries, 43 yards. Singletary had 7 for 32. Allen, of course, I mean, the quarterback yards are a little different, but 6 for 28. And then Diggs had 1 for 1 yard. I mean, the middle linebackers were doing their job in the run game, holding them right around 100 yards rushing total as a team, which is a win for our defense to currently with the way our defense has been covering the run lately. I know Buffalo is not really known as being a run-first offense or a power-running offense, so it kind of fit to our mold a little bit, but still – we didn't get gashed there. We didn't get gashed really on Josh Allen. He was much more accurate in the second half than he was in the first half.
For sure.
But I mean, his stats still weren't throwing the world on fire, but just Diggs had an excellent game. And we've been talking about that all year too, Hunter, is every time the Steelers play a team, we tend to let one receiver feast. And usually it doesn't kill the Steeler, but it ended up being the difference in this game.
And usually it's a more random receiver than their top dog that everybody knew was the alpha, like Fulgham. Like, where did that guy even come from for the Eagles? Like, it's always something like that, but this time it just so happened to be the superstar.
And one last point I want to make is punts.
Yeah. Punts. Talk to me about punts.
8 punts last game. 8.
A lot. Doesn't seem good.
We had 69 punts last year, all last year. This year, with Ben Roethlisberger, we're on pace for 76.
Hey, Duck is better than Ben Roethlisberger. Everybody knew it.
But that's an awful lot of punts. I would not have thought the way that they've had this win streak, the way everything's been going. I mean, we're definitely punting more lately than we have early. But at least if we had to have somebody punt, I'm glad that it's Barry instead of Colquitt. He's doing a
no doubt.
Job, but I didn't think that this was one of Barry's strongest games. I didn't think he was really getting the boomage that he had gotten in earlier games for us, and I hope that can turn around a bit.
Agree, and he struggled in the colder weather last year as well. That's when his descent kind of started to happen, so I hope that's not a trend that we're going to see again right now because that was obviously a cold game up in Buffalo. But one thing I would like to see on that punt stat, and I know that the defense was getting after it last year too and causing a ton of turnovers, but I would like to see kind of punts per drive or some kind of percentage because it's possible that the offense has had the ball more this year as well. Like maybe it's actually a less punt percentage.
Yeah,
These are my Yinzer goggles, guys. I put my Yinzer goggles on to try to make that sound a little better for you.
Oh, that always works. So, Hunter, who's your game ball going to on offense?
On offense is tough to pick, man, because like we just said, it was pretty disappointing all around. And I think it comes down to either Juju or James Washington, right?
Yep.
So for me, I'm going to go with James just because I like seeing him seize the opportunity. I expect that out of Juju. I expect good performances from him. But it's nice to see James take over. And when Deontay got benched, it was James who got his snap. So nice of him to seize that opportunity and show up.
And I will go with take Juju since you're taking James. Obviously, I mean, he's still the go-to guy. He was making the tough catches, targeted 7 times, made 6 catches. He's not known as a dropper right now, so that is awesome. And, you know, we need him moving forward, obviously. So on the defensive side of the ball, who was your favorite?
Honestly, man, going to surprise you, but we already talked about it. Marcus Allen, just because. We talk about a guy stepping up and seizing the opportunity. I thought he was going to be a liability. I genuinely was concerned about that position going in, and ended up not just doing his job, but making plays. He wasn't silent out there. Like sometimes silent is fine, you know, like Terrell Edmonds, we talked about so long. Like when you don't hear about Terrell Edmonds, that's a good thing. You know, he's not getting burnt. He's just out there doing his job. Yeah. That's what I thought from Marcus Allen, but like Marcus Allen actually made his presence known. So that was a big win for me.
And me, I'm going with Hilton. Hilton made splash play after splash play, defending a guy 9 inches taller than him in the end zone when he's covering the tight end. He knocked it away in the first half. I know he got the pass interference foul in the second half, but man, the guy is just a high motor, and I absolutely just love his. And every week it seems like he splits the 2 lead blockers to make the tackle on a screen every week, and it's. And at least getting a piece, even like the one he missed, he still got a piece of the guy's foot. The guy is just insane on how quickly he reads and reacts to plays, and then he makes these splash plays because of it.
It's so bizarre to see, man. And the splitting defenders on a screen is one of my absolute favorite plays. It's the most Troy. It's so Troy Polamalu, man. I haven't seen a guy do it since Troy, and it's crazy that of all people, it's Mike Hilton. And I know that sounds like a slight on Mike Hilton, but I feel like he loves that. Like he loves being the underdog, and clearly just thrives in that role. But kind of like I alluded to earlier, man, they got tough decisions with him and Sutton both due for contracts here soon. So they probably can't keep both, but man, would you love to?
I know. But injury-wise now, moving forward for this game, Matt Filer was placed on injured reserve with a torn pectoral. It was they threw him up before they even did the MRI. So he's messed up. He's not coming back this year. You know, prayers go out to Matt, you and your family, man. Get back, get healthy soon. And I hope you can recover from this with no adverse effects or lingering effects. Joe Hayden missed the game with concussion, using concussion protocol. Both on his Instagram and Coach Tomlin mentioned today in the presser, they expect to have him back this week. So it looks like he'll start practicing this week. It would be nice to have him and Nelson back again in that defensive secondary. Kevin Dotson, initially it was reported as a pectoral tear as well, but it turns out that his was a shoulder, and they still think that he can come back this game. Then you had minor bumps and bruises. You had Alex Highsmith with a shoulder. He came out for a few plays. Cam Hayward had his knee and his hand looked at during the game, but didn't seem to miss any snaps. Chuks Okorafor missed a couple snaps with an ankle. James Conner evidently has a quad issue now, and Terrell Edmonds has a shoulder he's dealing with. So we'll take a look at the way that those guys are going to shape out the rest of the week. But those are the guys on the team that we got to worry about this week on whether they're going to be available. And the last one being our only person currently on the COVID reserve list, being Vince Williams. He is eligible to return on the 19th, which is before the Cincy game. So he's got a chance of coming back.
Man, your injury reports get longer every week, and I do not like that, Stryker.
There's a plus and a minus to it. They get shorter for 2 ways. And one, they're longer because a lot of these are bang-ups. This is the day after the game or 2 days after the game. I mean, most of these guys are just light bang-ups. I'm not expecting any of them to miss time. You know, Dotson's the question mark for me. The only question mark is Dotson, though, you know, hearing about Conner and Edmonds weren't something that I didn't hear from the previous game. So, but the COVID list is the one that throws it up, and that is throwing players from your injury report to injured reserve. Right. So, like, we got a lot of guys there too. So
it's unreal, man.
We're putting one there every week.
It's been unreal, and the players were definitely dropping against the Bills, man. You could tell the injuries were starting to pile up. Like, I mean, everybody you just named, just the in-game injuries were extremely high. So that was not good to see. And I know, like, the 3 games in 12 days is not unheard of for sure when you go like Sunday, Thursday, or however you want to split it. I know that's not unheard of, but this late in the season when you didn't get a real bye week because the bye was so spontaneous and you didn't really even get to enjoy it in week 4, nonetheless, that long ago, there's no doubt in my mind that there was some wear involved in that they were breaking down. It was all over their body language. It was just obvious to me watching the game. So hopefully they can get adequate rest before this Monday night game against the Bengals and be fine. Because at this point, I think they're going to beat the Bengals, and it shouldn't be that much of a struggle to do so. But if they lose and just stay super healthy, nobody else goes down, that's fine because it's all about the playoffs right now. It's about the playoffs. They made the playoffs. They're in.
Yep.
All I care about now is winning throughout the playoffs. They could lose out and win the Super Bowl. Nobody's going to care.
To tell you the truth now, it comes down to just really one more win for the Steelers. I mean, you're going to lock up the worst if the Steelers win one more game, statistically, the worst that they will do is a 3 seed. The best that they will do, it seems, will be a 2 seed. Because the way that unless, Kansas City finds a way to drop 2 games, because even if they lose to New Orleans, I think they still have strength of victory over us. So that's really not going to help us out, even if they lose to New Orleans, because they'd have to lose a second time and we'd have to win out. So that's not happening. There is no bye for a 2 or a 3 seed. Sure. So we're going to start looking at these next 2 weeks for resting starters, and we might even have like a Rudolph starting the game.
Don't say that.
Just in time for Christmas.
Please
Rudolph,
don't say that.
Pittsburgh Steeler has a really strong Yinzer arm.
No amount of fun song will make me want to see Mason Rudolph under center, Stryker.
But it's not something that I would look forward to happening, but I'd understand it. Honestly, I would understand if that's got to happen, then yes, that's got to happen.
Sure.
So
I get it.
So now we're at the point of the show, Steeler Nation. Hey, Twitter, if you got a question, time to start throwing them up there, because we're going to start. Oh, wait, no, we forgot to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. My Lord, my cat just reminded me.
Honestly, I was totally fine with not even talk. Like, who cares? It's the Bengals.
Who cares? Yeah, it's the Bengals. We know them.
What do we need to say?
Who's their quarterback?
Do we really need to say anything?
The only thing that I want to know is who is their current quarterback, and you tell us about.
Is it still Ryan Finley? Dude, I don't know. I literally didn't do my homework this week because it's the Bengals. I don't care.
You got one job, Hunter. One job. Look at their roster.
I don't know.
I'll look up their depth chart here to make it seem like we know what we're talking about here, Steeler Nation.
No, we're just unprofessional guys. We don't do our homework.
All right, here we go. Their quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals is Brandon Allen right now.
Brandon Allen
over Ryan Finley.
Yeah. Okay.
But they still got.
Same person as far as I'm concerned.
No, I think Joe is much better.
No, Joe Burrow's amazing. I'm saying once you get past him.
Yeah, true. It's like choose your own adventure.
Could Mason or Duck. I don't care. It's not Ben.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. So now we'll take the questions. Anybody here on Twitter, you got some questions, throw them up there. We'll read them. I know we go to SteelerNation.com to get a lot of our questions from the greatest football forum on the internet, guys. SteelerNation.com. Sign up. It's free to join. It's a lot of fun, and we talk a lot. I'm on there all the time as Cope. So we have a great time busting each other's balls and just talking about great ideas, strategies, and analyses, and just having fun. But my cat is just all over the place right now. Like, she's so excited it's Bengals week. She is like jumping from ledge to ledge and having a great time.
Nice.
So, questions from Steeler Nation. First one from NDK12. What does Tomlin do during the game? Like, what's his job?
He stands there and looks intimidating. That's pretty much it.
Well, he does.
I'm joking.
Mostly, I guess his job is to communicate between like the refs and the coordinators and position coaches. Obviously, he has to utilize some game management. Does the timeouts, the challenge flags, and then of course individual player communication if he sees things or things are going on. Mm-hmm. And then like Bill Cowher, obviously he has the ability to call plays at the end if he sees something. So that's always a way. And I got a question up here too from Twitter. What do you guys think about the heat that Juju is taking for dancing on the Bills logo
Mm.
pregame.
Nice. My boy Richie Canalina asked that on Facebook as well, so I was looking forward to getting to that.
Oh,
Thanks for
great.
joining, by the
Good
way,
job,
Rich.
Richie. Hey, you guys
Yeah.
got great minds, Steeler Nation. Think alike.
For sure, for sure. And here's where I'm going to sound like an old man, Striker. I don't like it. I do not like it.
I don't like it, not one bit.
That was good. That was really good.
Back in my day, we didn't stamp on anything.
That's
Sherrillo, once
perfect.
he'd run out on that star, that's about it.
I'm just going to take it away. Keep going. Keep going. I can't top this.
You know me, I get on a trip. So you
perfect.
don't like it at all, and you don't like it because?
Look, I understand the value of TikTok and social media and his brand and all of that. There's other ways. There's other ways to get the views, Juju, and you've shown that throughout your career. I don't have a problem with the Christmas gifts and a lot of, the other stuff that he does in general does not bother me.
Yeah.
But whenever you directly tick off the opponent that is extremely talented and distract from the game and distract from the focus of the game, and if you think that didn't happen, listen to the Bills post-game comments because they all noticed that Juju did that. And Josh Allen had an amazing quote pregame firing up his guys. And I'm not going to lie, it made me a huge Josh Allen fan.
Yeah.
He was like, let them do all the effing dancing. We're going to go out and play. Like he totally, it pissed him off and he was not shy about it. And it fired up their guys and they lost. So I get it. When you're winning and you're having fun, hey, it's whatever. Nobody cares. But when you're on a 2-game losing streak and you haven't played well in 4 weeks and you've dropped passes along the way, maybe don't dance on the other team's logo. Maybe just focus for this game. And then, you know what? If you win, next game, go ahead. Dance on the logo. Do whatever. I don't care.
Nice. Yeah,
but
thank you, Facebook. Thank you, Twitter. Great question. Next question from Steelworth. How much input does Matt Canada have into the play design and calls on offense for right now? And for me, Hunter, you can correct me if you see something different, but for me, I felt like Matt Canada was more visible earlier in the season when we were doing a lot of pre-snap motion.
Absolutely.
And moving players around. Now it seems within at least the last 5-6 weeks, we haven't done it at all. And I don't know if it's because of injuries. I don't know if it's because of these short weeks, we can't put in a lot of different hiccups like we used to be able to with the earlier games. But I mean, we're like 5 days, 6 days on these 3 games in a row, it seems. So we have our first game that seems like forever that we get over a week to plan for. So hopefully we see some more wrinkles coming up for the Cincy game.
Yeah. And honestly, same answer for me on that. I think it was way more visible earlier in the season. Matt Canada's whole trademark is the pre-snap motion and confusing defenses before the ball is even snapped. If you watch his work at Pitt or NC State or any of his work at the collegiate level, it's all over the team. Like they're actually really, really fun teams to watch. And it's the most like college offense ever. It's just crazy. It looks insane to watch. And you're watching it, trying to imagine being a defender and keeping track of everybody and keeping your assignment straight throughout all that motion has got to be brutal. And like you said, it's become a much more vanilla offense for the Steelers, I think, as the season stretched on. So to answer the question, I don't think his stamp is very prominent right now at all, if at all. The jet sweeps, I think, are about the extent of it. I did see 1 or 2 of those against the Bills, I want to say. It popped back up, and I was like, hey, there it is. But and even sometimes just faking the jet sweep, that's also a Canada thing. So it was there a little bit, but it hasn't been there like earlier in the season.
Yes. Steeler Pride asks, who is responsible for the offensive game plan each week and who decides when adjustments are made to the game plan? I mean, it kind of steps back to, obviously, your offensive coordinator, Randy Fichtner's got a big part of it. I know, Canada's got a big part of it. Ben Roethlisberger's got a big part of it. Of course, Tomlin's going to talk. And then you've got your position coaches, which Tomlin just talked to today about having, Ike Hilliard in there and liking his input in there with the offense. So obviously your running back, your offensive line, tight ends, coaches, and wide receivers coaches are going to have some say as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big old brainstorming session, I think, to answer that question. They all get together. They all have their input and for sure varying degrees of input. And Tomlin will have the final call on it, of course, and be able to implement it. So as adjustments go, I'm sure that's, Tomlin's job mid-game to communicate that if he sees something. But at the same time, if Matt Canada sees something we even saw it earlier in the season, Josh Dobbs noticing things and telling Roethlisberger, it's a team game for a reason. Like they're all allowed to pipe up and say when they see something that needs adjusted. And then it's just, up to authorization. I don't know if Tomlin needs to actually approve it or if they just go for it or what. I've never been on an NFL team to know that process, but I would love to. But yeah.
Great. So the second question here too from Steeler Pride is kind of building on his first. Statistically speaking, the offense has been much more productive with Ben calling plays as well in the hurry up offense. Why is that?
That's the $1 million question right there, man. I'm sorry. I wish I had an answer for that, but we talked about it earlier too, that it hasn't been working the same as it was earlier in the season. But I agree with you that over the years, it seemed that the no huddle offense was always so much more effective with Ben. And I think that's partly Ben's ability to read defenses and do what he does and be a Hall of Famer for a reason. You know, he's very special at what he does. But I also think it's whenever you have the amount of weapons that the Steelers have, that's just impossible for defenses to keep up with on the fly. So
yeah,
I've always been a big fan of it in general, but again, lately it hasn't been working any better than the normal game script. So I don't know, but I think that's more of an anomaly, man. That's one thing that I am not worried about moving forward. I think that's just kind of coincidence, whatever you want to call it. The offense in general has been so predictable lately that I don't think the 2-minute catches people off guard the way it usually does.
And that's a great point. That's what I was going to say, Hunter, is that it was the 2-minute offense or the hurry up offense is so different than the offense we normally run, which is kind of a way to kind of shock the defense into, oh, well, we didn't plan for this. Mm-hmm. And Steelers look like they can move the ball with ease. And it's something that they always kind of have in their back pocket that they're able to utilize. But yeah, but like we were talking these last 2 weeks, we've been killed, absolutely destroyed. Like our 2-minute offense is the reason why we lost these last couple games, which is unfortunate because it's such a strong point for this team. So, you know, hopefully it was just, you know, the part of the season where we have a little bit of a lull, you know, that part of the romantic comedy where the girl leaves the guy and then he's got to win her back. So hopefully Ben will be winning back this offense for all of Steeler Nation here down the streak and take us to the promised land, because that would be awesome.
I love
that. Given the wide receiver issues with drop passes, why not get more throws beyond the sticks to take some pressure off of them for yards after catch? Deeper routes. And for me, I always say that the deeper routes, though, it's your plus and your minus. Like our offensive line has been getting help, and Ben has been helping out his offensive line the best that he can by getting this ball out as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. Once you start getting to deeper routes, you have to hold the ball on longer. So this is kind of like a give and take. So he's worried about his knee. He's trying to get that ball out as quickly as possible. People are open. You know, they don't drop that ball. They're open. They're going to be making plays. So, you know, yes, it's nice. And when you get those short plays, that sets up for the longer plays because, you know, you can't rush every time. You can get a pump fake in and have people jump at the line of scrimmage so they're not even rushing toward you. So that's, you know, it's a give and take.
Yeah, I think the O-line's a big reason, like you say. I think the fact that they have a non-existent running game is another reason, because I feel like we parrot this, or, you know, we say this every week, but the short passes serve as the running game. So I feel like that's why there's an abnormally high volume of them. At least one of the reasons, not the sole reason why, but yeah, I feel like, and then obviously that eats into your longer passes past the sticks like you're talking about. And also the long passes just have not been effective lately either. You know, Ben hasn't had great touch on them. You've talked about the drops. There's various reasons why it hasn't been effective. So it's not, I don't know that necessarily is the solution either. It's like concentration with these guys. And that's what everybody said leading into the Bills game. It's just concentration drops, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, they were definitely, this game was definitely concentration drops.
For sure, 100%. So it's one of those things that it's no game plan is going to solve that. It's up to the individual players to just make the adjustment.
Then Hoot asks us,
Who
are the next men up on the offensive line if Big Dot and Filer can't go?
Dude, I was just wondering that myself. Gerald Hawkins obviously came into the game, and then J.C. Hausner was in there as well. Yeah. So those are the next guys as far as I know. But beyond that, I guess Derwin Gray would be active. Yep. And then after that, you're in big trouble, man. They can't go down too much more.
I know they've got like one of the old XFL offensive linemen on the practice squad, but you hit it on the head. I mean, Hausner's already started a game at center. He'd start a game at guard if neither of them can go, and then Derwin Gray would be backing them up. And he's been on the roster most games this year to serve as that backup on the interior.
Yeah. Dude, side note, Derwin Gray is one of the most massive human beings I've ever been around in my life. Like,
really?
I want him to be good just because I think he would be super fun to watch. Like, it just like seeing him in the locker room, and we're talking about other giant human beings, right? Like the whole team, they're all giant.
Yeah.
But Derwin Gray is like 330 and shredded. Like, he's not one of the chubby kind of offensive linemen. The dude is just yoked.
Nice. Hoot also asked an inside linebacker question, but I think we covered that pretty well during the show. What reasonably can be righted before the playoffs?
A lot, I think,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, there's no huge issues. Kind of like I said at the beginning of the show, that if you feel like the sky is falling, like I don't think it is.
Yeah.
There's not massive problems. Ben's arm isn't shot for good.
Mm-mm.
It's a lot of health right now. If they can just get healthy in time for the playoffs, there's like your major solution. Some cohesion along the offensive line would be great. That's the one thing that's going to concern me the most is the offensive line. And
now
I know
losing another starter.
Right. And I know that yeah, exactly. And I know, but if Dot gets healthy, he may be an upgrade anyway, which I know we've talked about before as well. So I'm not, again, but if Dot can't go, then yes, I'm absolutely getting concerned. But that's the main thing for me. And I know we talk about, the no sacks on Ben's streak, but like we also said, pretty sure that's also a product of how fast he's getting the ball out. It's not necessarily saying that that's the best pass protecting line in Steelers history or anything.
Yeah.
So the offensive line in general is my major concern. They need to get some chemistry there. They need to get fully healthy, and they need to get back to being nasty and getting some push.
I've got a question for you, and this is just off the top of my head since we're talking about the offensive line, Hunter. Do you think we have a current Pro Bowler on the offensive line this season?
0% chance. For me, no.
I'm with you.
Absolutely.
This is one of those points where name recognition might get Pouncey or DeCastro or Villanueva in to the Pro Bowl. But in my opinion, I haven't seen anything out of any of those three players this season that would merit being a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. Completely agree.
Cool. Steelworth has a question for us. He just read that Chase Claypool saw 3 total snaps in the second half of last night's game. Why? And I think we touched base on that, stating that they're trying to limit some snaps and get Washington on the field because they both play – Washington and Claypool play the exact same position. They both play the Z receiver, which is the deep ball receiver in our alignment. So if Clay's getting less snaps, it's because Washington's getting more. Clay was the one that was taking all Washington snaps there at the beginning of the season. So to give and a take, they saw something that they liked with the matchup with Washington. He got the touchdown early, so they were sticking with him there, it looked like, for the second half.
I mean, Washington's earning snaps as well. And that's not to say that Claypool hasn't. He's been great as well. But it's getting harder and harder to deny James the opportunity when every time he comes in, he makes a play. Like that needs to get rewarded in the NFL, and the Steelers are currently rewarding it. So I have no problem with that. I like limiting Chase right now. I think he is a guy in the future who they're never going to take off the field. Like he's going to be irreplaceable in the future. But for this season, I like him as more of that splashy, big play threat that can just stretch out the defense and here and there make a huge play.
Cooley Man asks, why was Watt on the sideline with the Bills deep in Steeler territory?
I was wondering that too, man. I thought he was hurt. He looked tired, and I was worried that he was injured, but I genuinely think he was just winded.
Yeah, it looked like it to me. It looked like he was breathing hard on the sideline too when I saw on that drive. And also, Tomlin mentioned today, 3 games in 12 days. We don't have extended rest after it. I mean, he was trying to limit everybody's snaps, giving them the rest that they need as this game goes on, and he did the best that he could. I mean, they were overworking the heck out of Watt in that game anyway, and he was working it as hard as he could. So, kudos for at least giving him a little bit of a breather. You got to take him out sometimes to get a breath, but yeah,
it's hard.
It might be a byproduct why they got deep into our
it's hard
our territory because he wasn't on the field.
And it's even harder. It's even harder to do your job when guys are bear hugging you and holding you every single play.
Yeah, those neck tackles, man. They're the ones that always get when the guy's like, you see this, and there's like no body anywhere. It's this, and the guy's like, trying to get at a quarterback, and they're like, that is a hold every time.
I know that sounds like the most Yinzer take, like it's the most Homer take ever, however you want to say. But dude, there's no way you can objectively watch these games and think that TJ Watt gets a fair shake. He just does not.
It's kind of like, well, though, James Harrison was that high motor guy too, but the thing with James Harrison too was he was so much shorter than everybody. Yeah. Like everybody was neck tackling James Harrison because that's right where he is.
Yeah, that's all you could grab. Yeah.
When he's doing a club move or a bull rush and then like a bull rush club and coming right across you. So it's
unreal. It's unreal.
I loved watching that guy play, man.
For sure.
And Cooley Man also wanted to know, do you think Washington should have drawn a pass interference call on that deep pass that was picked off? And obviously that was the last play of our offense in that game.
I do. I genuinely do, man. That play bothered me because James Washington is a guy who does not give up on plays. He's a high motor guy, high effort guy, super professional, balls to the wall hustler. And to see him kind of give up on the play and look for the call instead, and then after the interception was made, not really try to make a tackle, that sucked to see because that's not James. That's not the James Washington that we know. So, yeah, that play bothered me, man. Like, full disclosure, I was disappointed in James right there.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why to me, yeah, bang, bang, you're watching it. I can see why it wasn't called, but, yeah, you slow it down. It looked to me like it was pass interference. And, unfortunately, we can't review pass interference calls this year. Thanks, Seattle.
I mean, it didn't work anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was probably one of the worst decisions ever to use.
Unreal, yeah.
For instant replay anyway. I mean, it's way to slow down the game and make it more,
Yeah.
Not let the players determine the outcome of the game. So
yeah.
And Mad Insomniac has a question. Last question from Steeler Nation. Then we're going to be taking some more questions here from Twitter and Facebook. So make sure you get your questions up here. Mad Insomniac asks, do you think we are playing coy on offense like we did in 05 and will come out with a totally different scheme once the postseason starts? Or are we just intelligence deficient on offense?
That's the nicest way you could possibly put that. Good job.
Very eloquently posted.
That was.
Insomniac.
That was. I like that. So I kind of alluded to this last week as well in saying that they kind of hampered Canada's input because they don't want to put too much on film, that they kind of thought that they could just beat Washington and beat the Ravens without doing those things, just take it easy and win. Obviously, they did not beat Washington and they did not beat the Bills. And the Bills are certainly not a team that you can hold anything back against. So I think that theory is slowly being disproven because even though after last week, I was like, all right, maybe they learned their lesson. But if they did it again against the Bills, that's taking it to a whole new level. That's a different level of chess that I don't think they're playing. I think they're just, as he put it, intelligence deficient at this point and not making plays.
Yeah, and for me too, I will concede your point too, Mad, in that I think that this wrinkle, these last 4 games with the Steelers not performing as well on offense, is going to kind of force the Steelers to come up with some wrinkles as we enter the playoffs. And that is, like I'm saying, if we clinch the division this week, there's really no real benefit to who wins the next 2 games. Yeah. We're getting a 2 or a 3 seed, and we get a home game, and it's just, maybe we start instituting the new Canada plays that we couldn't get on these short weeks. Maybe we see a lot more wrinkles. I mean, I could honestly see that happening. And if we're, resting starters, then essentially we're going to treat it like these next 2 weeks like our bye weeks.
Yeah, and here's the flip side of that might be concerning if I wanted to play devil's advocate. With the way the Steelers' offense is playing right now with kind of no chemistry, no real rhythm, I don't know that that's the time that you want to start throwing new wrinkles like that in anyway. Like maybe that's not – the playoffs, I mean. Like the playoffs would not be the time to experiment unless you have that stuff worked out in the regular season when it doesn't matter. Like you said, those last couple games that don't matter, maybe go ahead and test it there before trying it in the playoffs.
Well, it's what you do, though, playoff-wise anyway, and even for Super Bowl, you do – every team puts in a wrinkle. Every whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plays, you do institute plays that you normally don't have on film in certain situations, so you don't get killed on them in those situations when you're playing a team that, by the time you're at the Super Bowl, teams know how to review film. They understand your whole playbook. They know what you're going to run. So if you can throw like the Eagles did when they ran the Philly play, the reverse pass back to Nick Foley and Dynamite.
Nice.
That was a heck of a play. I'm from the Philly area, so I love all of them.
I've never heard that one, but
that's my favorite Nick Foles nickname ever is Nick.
That's
Foles
good.
And but that was just the perfect play at the perfect time because they'd seen that run as an edge run every time. That's what they had their film on. And then they pulled up and threw it, and Belichick and Ernie Adams choked on their freaking coffee.
Yeah. So Wouldn't it be hilarious if the Browns were like perennial Super Bowl contenders, but they were saving all their good plays for the playoffs all these years? They're like, hey, when we get there, we got them, but they're just 0-16. It's like, oh, you should probably break out some of those good plays, bro.
Well, they should have kept Belichick if they wanted that to happen.
Hey.
But so that's all the questions we have from SteelerNation.com. We'll roll it over here to Facebook, Twitter. If you have anything else, pop it up here and we'll read it after the Facebook questions.
Got a lot on Facebook here today. So we got Richie again. I'll just start at the top. He asked, where did we go that – oh, I'm sorry. I missed Crystal. You know what, Richie? We're putting you on hold. Punch me. Crystal. What do we have to do to get back on track? Is it so many games too close together, or are we falling apart? The Browns are going to be tough. So, I mean, we've covered this pretty much at length throughout the entire episode. Yeah. For me, it all starts with the offensive line. Once they can get their push back, that's going to change the whole dynamic of the offense, and I think you'll see a lot of problems go away. I know the offensive line and the trenches in general are not the sexiest position to look at. You know, you'd rather say, oh, Deontay needs to catch the balls, which he needs to do that too. But it all starts with the O-line. So I think once we see that get back on track, the defense is fine. I have zero concerns about the defense besides the health. I need everybody to start staying healthy and get healthy. But other than that, I think they're fine. They're not falling apart. It's a rough patch. They're fine.
And I wanted to make a quick point about the defense. I agree with you completely on the offense. One aspect of the defense that I haven't touched on yet this year, but I talked about it a little bit last year, and that was the health of the H's. And I'll go with the triple H's on the defense, and that is Hayward, Hilton, and Hayden. When you got all three of those guys healthy with the other H, these guys, we don't lose games. We don't really lose games when those three guys are firing. And now we get to add in another H here with Highsmith. So
nice.
And Hunter Homistek here telling us what to do. I wish your middle name was Harvey so I could call you.
I know. It's an A, unfortunately. And we got Jim saying we have no power back, thus the running game suffers. And Jim, appreciate the comment and input, but I'm going to politely disagree with you on that, man. I don't think it's the back. I don't think put in Larry Sonka behind that line and he's not going to change things. I don't think it's the lack of a power back or anything. Like we've said, it's the O-line. I kind of made the joke comment last week that Barry Sanders wouldn't do anything behind that line, and I half mean that. Yeah. Like, it's just Benny Snell, James Conner, they're fine, but every running back needs
NFL caliber backs. Yeah. And we're still developing McFarland, sorry, and and Samuels. Samuels showed again last week 2 solid games in a row for Samuels, showing what he can do, picking up some yardage both with his legs and being a pass catcher.
Yeah, and he actually led all running backs in snaps, so good for Samuels there.
Yeah.
Now we got you, Richie. We're back. We got you. Where do we go this draft in the first round? Future franchise QB, running back, offensive line? I'm going to go with the third option there and say offensive line early because it's very clear that they need the help, A, but B, they also don't have the depth that they usually have or that they hope to have. Yeah. Whenever these guys start going down, it's like a pretty clear drop-off in talent, in my opinion. But bigger than that is that kind of what you said earlier, Stryker. I don't think they have a Pro Bowler. Like, I don't think David DeCastro is the David DeCastro we know, and Marquise Pouncey is the Marquise Pouncey we know. So it's clear that even if they have, 1 or 2 years left in them after this, the time is rapidly approaching, and that's not – look at the Bengals. They got Joe Burrow, and he got injured out for the year because the dude got hit 30 times a game. Like, you got to protect your guys. Yeah. That's the place that you cannot fall behind on, or nothing else matters. So, for me, it's offensive line.
And I'm with you there. Like, center, guard, tackle. I mean, you can go all 3 spots on the offensive line because we know Pouncey's getting to the end of his career. Guard a little bit less because I think we had hit with Dotson last year. But tackles, I mean, AV is leaving, probably going to leave in free agency as well as Filer. But at least tackle-wise, we get Zach Banner back, even though he's a free agent. I think he can be signed to another contract. Right. And he can come in and be a road grading and tackle as well. So, yeah, I'm more concerned with the interior of the line. If you're going outside of those positions, we still need a tight end. Yeah. Because Vance McDonald, he's a free agent, I think, after this year. And still need more depth at outside linebacker. You can't have enough edge players, and you can't have enough cornerbacks because now we have both of our nickel corners are up this year. Yeah. So, unless we think Justin Lane's going to come down and play nickel like Sutton or Hilton, which I don't think he can.
It's not his skill set, really.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, they need a lot of help, and they need Ben's replacement. But Ben's replacement, I'd wait a couple years. I'd wait for that bad year before I go draft Ben's replacement when you got a chance to only have to move up a couple spots to really get that guy you want when you're drafting around the 10 spot.
Sure. All right, we got good question here from Bill DeJoseph. D. Joseph. I don't know how you say it, dude. I'm sorry.
DJ, what's up?
Said they're gonna finish. I assume he's saying they're gonna finish 12-4 out in the first round. Ben's arm is done. We're in trouble the next 8 to 10 years. Your thoughts? So 12-4 sounds reasonable. I'll give you that. I could see that for sure. I'm okay with that. Out in the first round, hey, man, dude, if they play like they have been, they're out in the first round. You're 100% correct there, no doubt.
Yeah.
But kind of like we said all episode, I think there are adjustments they can and will make. I don't think they're that bad. They should be able to at least win one, and I'm not counting them out as a Super Bowl team either, because the team we saw earlier this year that was so exciting is not gone. You know, they just need to make adjustments and figure this thing out. I totally agree. It's trending in the wrong direction, but I'm not ready to just bury them because of that. And then in trouble for the next 8 to 10 years, I mean, I can't agree with that just because the way the Steelers organization is run, they're not going to have a law like that. Even without Ben, even finding Ben's replacement, they'll figure something out. They showed last year they could go 8-8 with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. So you got to think they'll find somebody better than that long term. And whether that's I'm intrigued by the idea of like a Sam Darnold coming to Pittsburgh, something like that. I don't know if it'll even be through the draft, but
or even a Winston, like a James Winston, because that's a guy that I'm not like. So many people want to disrupt this dude and say, hey, he had 30 interceptions. Yeah, but he had 30 damn touchdowns. It's like, you can't teach that.
And he couldn't see.
The league. I mean, change the offense a little bit to his strengths, and hopefully he doesn't throw as many INTs. I mean,
I agree, man. I agree. But yeah, dude, I understand like why you would be feeling this way right now, that like they're in trouble for 8 to 10 years. The past couple of weeks have been completely gross. Like the games are not even fun to watch. But I would hold off on that a little bit is all.
And for me too, like I did call the Steelers at being 12-4 going into the season, and you know, the sad thing is at this point, if I'm right in the wrong way, because you don't want to be trending
like this
down in December. Right. Getting 3 of your 4 losses of a 12-4 season in December. It doesn't trend correctly.
Sure.
But like I said too, even if they do end up 12-4, they win this week and they're starting to lose the next couple games because they're starting to rest starters. You know, to me, that trend is fine, because you've got to have this team as healthy as possible and Ben as healthy as possible to go anywhere in these playoffs.
Absolutely. How long is Hayden out for? We touched on, so we can skip over that.
Looks like he's coming back this week. Yeah.
Why not put Ray McLeod in at wide receiver? I think they simply have better options, man. The drops are not a huge. Yeah, I know. I mean, they literally benched Deontay, but even when you bench Deontay, you know, James Washington, Claypool, you have to go down the list before you get to McLeod. He's not a good route runner. Doesn't have excellent hands. He's very fast.
Yes.
That's pretty much it. But that doesn't. He's small. You know that. It's not. They just don't need him. I mean, that's honestly why they simply have better options.
And unfortunately with Ray too, it seems like he's taken a step back in the returning game, and he's not really like he's fair catching when he shouldn't fair catch, and then he doesn't fair catch when he should. So he's taking a couple big hits just because he missed timed or didn't fair catch it. And then this last game, he had a couple options where he didn't have to fair catch it, and he had a chance of making some people miss and getting some plays off. But even when he's running with the football right now, he doesn't feel as electric as he did early in the season when he was first returning these kicks, and he was putting up numbers we were talking about before, Hunter. I mean, these numbers were close to like all pro numbers, and definitely like killing DJ's numbers from the previous season, at least on caliber with those types of return yards, especially on punt returns.
It's crazy.
Now, I mean, do we feel that he's going to rip one off? And right now, I don't feel like he is.
Yeah, I'm right with you, man. He's been disappointing, trending down as well, no doubt.
But hopefully he turns it up too. I love me some Ray.
Yeah, for sure. And Ryan also asked, "Is this game for the division?" Which, yes, it is. If they beat Cincy, they win the division. Yep. Richie again. Richie's all over the chat. Hey, by the way, I like this question because for 2 reasons I'll explain. Have we seen Bud Dupree for the last time in a Steelers uniform?
Ooh.
So for A, it's just a good question. B, Richie trains Bud Dupree boxing. Richie's a pro boxer and a boxing trainer. So go check out Sanctuary Boxing Club to check out Richie's latest endeavor, man. He's an awesome guy, and he actually works with quite a few Steelers as well, Steven Nelson and Devin Bush boxing as well. So Richie's that dude and has a close connection with Bud. And honestly, Richie, I feel like you're setting me up because you probably know better than me. You know Bud better than me, but I would say oh man. I don't know, dude. I'm totally on the fence on this question. I think we have probably seen Bud Dupree for the last time in a Steelers uniform, and that brings me a lot of sadness, man. I don't want that to be the case. Bud Dupree's the man. You know, he's easy to root for. He's just a fun guy, really great guy, but he's also a flat-out beast. Like Alex Highsmith, as much as I love Highsmith's game and think he's going to be great,
he's 2 years behind Bud Dupree.
Yeah, he's got at least 2 years before he gets to where Bud Dupree currently is. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I unfortunately think we have, though, just from a pure financial perspective.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, Hunter. It's free agency, and it comes down to who are we going to keep. So do I want to keep Bud Dupree? If that's the question, yes. Yes, I've tried to keep him, but the problem is if the Steelers decide to keep Bud Dupree, who are you going to get rid of? If you're going to keep Bud Dupree and pay him his $20 million a year, that means that you're probably not going to be paying Watt his $20 million a year when he comes up the following year. So if you're going to ask me, would you rather keep Watt or Dupree? I'm keeping a guy younger that's got his whole career ahead of him with a little bit higher ceiling, in my opinion, or at least higher work productivity that he's shown. I don't see a fall off in Watt's game the way that family prepares and plays football. And then the other thing is, then the second question is, you got to use the franchise tag on somebody next year. Bud Dupree is an option to keep via franchise tag, but
that's what Richie said.
How well does it work franchise tagging a Steeler player 2 years in a row?
Doesn't work.
I think we learned our lesson after Bell. I don't, and especially at that position.
Yeah.
That's an expensive position. And to me, I think they're going to utilize that tag to Juju Smith-Schuster to try to at least keep him on roster to either tag and trade to get some value or to sign him to a long-term.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I totally agree. And Richie brings up an excellent point as well. Just following up on that, he said Watt is not the same without Bud. It's that simple. And we talked about that, last week as well, the way that they worked as a duo. Yeah, as amazing as TJ Watt is, and nobody at all will dispute that, it simply works better when you have more weapons around him. And when you have a guy like Bud on the other side, there's no doubt. I mean, we see that throughout the years with the Steelers team. It seems like Woodley and Harrison, Porter and Higgins, like it's always a duo. It's not, it doesn't work the same whenever you lose one of the guys, man. So I definitely agree with you on that. And it's just unfortunate. Franchise tag, like you said, Richie, and like Stryker just said, it is an option, but it's going to get very expensive, and it also limits you from doing it with Juju. So I don't know, man. It's sad. I hope that we have not seen Bud's last game in Pittsburgh. I'll put it that way.
And for me too, just coming off of that edge, 2 games ago, Watt still put up his numbers. I mean, that was his first game without Bud, and he played an amazing game. Last game, it seemed like they really schemed to stop Watt that past game, which is why he was so winded. Though it seemed like he was running deep he was trying to speed rush. It seemed like that whole game because they were chipping so much on the inside that he really had no way to come inside, and he was sprinting the whole game. So that was an interesting way for them to attack Watt in that game.
Yeah, and it wasn't his best performance. I mean, you saw him kind of wear down, get tired, like we said, winded. It's not the things that you want to see, but he'll be back. And actually, it was strange to me because right before the half, I texted my friends and said, like, Watt is going to have a huge second half because he was getting close. He wasn't making the plays, but he was consistently beating that right tackle and just getting close. And it was the kind of thing where I was like, he's going to wear that guy out by the end of the game, and it's going to get nasty. And just the total opposite happened. Watt got worn out instead. So that was baffling to me, man. So I don't know if rest is the answer, if he was a little hurt, or if he needs somebody like Bud on the other side.
Yeah,
I don't know.
All valid points. All valid points. Yeah. We'll find out here in the next couple games.
Yeah. If he can't beat the Cincy offensive line, we've got big problems.
Oh, yeah. Is that all the questions then on Facebook?
That's it on Facebook today.
Excellent. Hey, thank you, Steeler Nation. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, Twitter, for providing some awesome questions for us for today. We really appreciate it as always, and hopefully we can go out and get this win and close up the division this week. So this Monday. This kind of sucks. Like, it's so weird. I'm so used to seeing, like, it seems like a Steeler game every other day. that now we have to wait through a Sunday to a Monday night to watch the next Steeler game. It seems like
I want a Sunday 1 o'clock game again, just like you, man. There's something so nice about that. Just vegging out on your couch with a beer and watching some Steelers football at 1 p.m. But gotta wait till Monday now.
Yeah, you do. And Hunter, thank you again for providing an excellent hour with me, man. I always love talking with you. Always great. Anything new going on with your life here? Seems like we haven't chewed the fat.
Always moving, man. So actually today just got announced. I got a new MMA podcast of all things going on the Brawl Network. So awesome. I'm joining the Brawl Network as their managing editor and still doing all my other stuff as well. You know, I'm not leaving anything behind. This is just I'm putting a little more on my plate right now. And gonna start a new podcast with one of my best friends, one of my mentors. We worked together a lot in the past, Dwayne Finley. So we're going to be starting a podcast there. If you guys are into MMA or fighting at all, for sure, check it out. It'll be all over my socials and everything. So if you just follow me, I'll be sure to flood you with podcasts and all the other stuff that I'm doing.
And we'll be sure to promote that too, because Steeler Nation, if you didn't know before, I mean, Hunter used to be a reporter and used to follow the MMA. So he really knows his MMA stuff. So this is really, it's exciting to me because this is probably going to be a podcast I'm going to start listening to because I love watching MMA, but I don't know the fighters as well and as depth as like you guys. You live, you know what it takes to train to do and create, like change your body to be that type of athlete.
Right.
To me,
it's going to be very fighter focused. We're going to have some awesome guests. You know, we're going to have fighters on as guests all the time, managers, other journalists in the game. Man, we're really well connected in that space. So I think it's going to be a really fun time.
Oh, that's awesome. And everybody, guys, reach out to a Hunter on Twitter, on Instagram at Hunter A Homistek. That's at HunterAHomistek. And until next week at 2:00 on Tuesday will be our next time, right a day after the game. So we'll be able to talk about this Cincy game, and hopefully it's a victory. We got to write this losing streak. It's only losing streak so far this season.
Of course. We're going to end it 12-2 when we come back. We're going to be – I appreciate all the questions, guys. That was like one of the most engaging podcasts I think yet. So that was really cool to have all the questions. A lot of new faces. Hopefully you guys join us next week, and we'll see you then.
All right. See ya. See ya, Hunter.
Later, man.
All right. Steeler Nation, visit our title sponsor, Total Sports Enterprises, on Twitter to be part of their signed merch giveaway. Remember, we got that Jack Ham signed jersey and that Hines Ward Gotham jersey to win today. All you got to do is jump onto @TotalSportsENT, like it and retweet it. Easy as that. Chances to win. Check out their shop, www.tseshop.com. Up to 65% off everything in the store. Just check and see what they got. Great gift ideas and great, unique stuff for Steeler fans. You too can get great, unique gifts like our great shirt that I'm wearing for Steeler Nation, established 1933, on the SteelerNation.com gear page and apparel page. So come on over and get some great gifts for the family. You got one more week till Christmas. Gear up with Steeler Nation, guys. SteelerNation.com is the best site for fast, unique Steelers content on the internet. Click the podcast button to listen to one of our many interviews, or click on the forum button for the best football discussion on the web. Subscribe to the SteelerNation.com YouTube channel to be the first to know about our vidcasts and uploads at www.youtube.com/C/Steeler Nation. Tweet us at Steeler Nation. Instagram us at SteelerNation.com. Follow the Steeler Nation podcast on Twitter at _SN Podcast and Instagram at Steeler Nation Podcast. And follow your host, G.Stryker, here on Twitter and Instagram at SN_Striker, Striker spelled with a Y. And thanks for joining us on the SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, with Hunter Homistek, rooting along with you, as always. Go Steelers!